My name is Clara Tauson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Nick, there's only one place to start. And what on earth have I just heard or witnessed? I'm going to play it again, just a second. What was that?
I mean, if you don't know what that was, then
I don't. It's obviously an automated update that I just wasn't aware of, and wasn't the case 2 hours ago, because I haven't changed that music unless I've done something without realizing it. I'm guessing that StreamYard just did it without me knowing. But
I'm going to guess that. It's much more like the YouTube countdown before a premiere or something like that. So
it is. But I don't know. I quite liked the beat before, and I'm going to play it just one more time and then give my final take on it. And I said to you, it sort of sounds like you're just getting on a plane. You know, that sort of background music that you're barely listening to. Sometimes in a shopping mall as well, that's just luring you into buying some clothes that you don't really want.
Speaking of which, you can buy merchandise in the Talking Tennis store, including shirts and mugs. So
and stickers and a notebook that's extremely overpriced and that nobody really wants or needs. But you do really need that $15 notebook because you just can't get them anywhere else. Anyway, I guess really where we should start, though, Nick, in terms of the tennis, has to be with Mirra Andreeva. And it is about 20 minutes since I mentioned that I have Mirra Andreeva in my year-end top 10. And I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Vance yesterday. Are you surprised that Gil didn't have Mirra Andreeva in his top 10 come the year-end?
Oh, no. No, I'm not. I wouldn't have put her in.
Okay. You're echoing Vance. You're echoing Vance.
Yeah, I am. Here's the thing. She's 17. Like, Coco Gauff didn't break the top 10.
Yeah, but she's good. She's good.
She's good. But, like, when did Gauff break top 10? Like, 18? So I guess, like, it's similar, like she could have done. But I do not have that level of expectation for any player that age, no matter how good they are. Because she's, like, okay, she'll show, I was expecting her to show flashes of brilliance throughout the year, keep confirming that she's a really promising talent, and we'll still be hyped for her at the end of the year, whatever. I'm now even more hyped for her because she's just become the youngest ever 1,000 champion at a WTA tournament. And how? I mean, like that, the improvement we've seen from her this week has been insane. And I think there's a reason why we've been having her as down as the most promising talent the WTA has seen since Iga Swiatek and Coco Gauff and arguably Emma Raducanu. Emma
Raducanu mentioned. Tick.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm a Brit. What can you say? She's.
Also, are you Josh, by the way? Josh? Or am I Josh and you're John?
Not since I last checked, but I'll get my birth certificate out and make sure. Yeah, Mirra Andreeva. Wow. I mean, like, I wasn't like when I did the preview with Mario, I thought she wasn't ready to be Iga Swiatek. Oh boy, she was. And then she beat Rybakina and handled Clara Tauson really well for the first set. Didn't need to as much for the second, but due to her Tauson being a bit physically hampered. But yeah, I mean, there's so many superlatives I can have with Mirra Andreeva right now, and whilst wouldn't have predicted this had this to come so soon for her. I'm very excited that it has.
Yes, I get it. I just sort of winding back is I know what you mean. You don't want to put too much expectation or pressure on her. You're making saying Coco didn't make it till then, but she was knocking at the door and now she is top 10. Of course, she may not stay there. But for me, I was a little surprised at the time that Gil didn't have her in the top 10. Of course, I'm sure if we'd have gone to 12 or 14 or the next mentions, she would have been. But yes, she got to a Grand Slam semi-final last year. She's now won a 1,000. I saw some of her matches actually before we went live. I said I didn't see her semi-final. That's not true. I did see the third set against Rybakina, and from 3-1 down in that third set, she then reels off 5 games in a row, including breaking Rybakina 3 times in a row, which obviously is no mean feat, breaking arguably or certainly one of the best servers in the world 3 times in a row. She also said in her on-court interview after that semi-final that she sort of felt pretty relaxed at 3-1 down. She wasn't beating herself up. She was almost telling herself that she had a good week, and she loosened up. And having not threatened the Rybakina serve for the best part of an hour, I think, or maybe even longer, then she suddenly more than threatens it. She breaks it 3 times in a row, and Rybakina doesn't know what's hit her kind of thing, and she's in the final. Going into today's final, I found it very difficult to divide the two in terms of where I was leaning. I did just go for Andreeva, just because I just felt that she might be the more consistent. Of course, Tauson's had an incredible week, and you were on this show just 3 weeks ago predicting Tauson to have big things. I did think that she faded, as you mentioned, though, in that third set, right, Clara?
Second set, yeah, she was clutching a hip, she was doubled over, and I thought, to be honest, the thing that I thought would swing it going into it would be, so I did predict Andreeva. And it was 2 things. First of all, Andreeva's level. If she'd seen off and Swiatek and Rybakina, the only thing that would hold her back against Tauson would be nerves. And Tauson was definitely looking very tired at the end of her semi-final with Karolina Muchova, which was almost 3 hours long. And I just thought it's probably going to catch up with her, because although Mirra had a couple of strong matches, the Rybakina match went 3. The Iga match was straight sets, but it wasn't. It was still a complicated straight setter. Relatively, it was relatively long, like an hour and a half minimum.
Can you unwrap that a little bit, because I didn't see that match and I don't really know the details either. I know it was 6-3, 6-3, which is obviously impressive.
I can see. I was going to say that, Tauson I think had too much more in the legs in that final, and I'm not surprised she faded. The Iga match was interesting. So I didn't see it live. I had to catch up on it. I had Mario bring me up to speed. Because he watched it, and the thing that I've noticed was, during the match when I managed to watch it backwards, Andreeva was really dialed in on return, and she was peaking and she was putting the ball exactly where she needed it. She was finding her way past Iga. She was living with Swiatek in the rallies, she was able to go toe to toe with her, and I think Iga wasn't as clinical as she could have been in certain moments, but that Andreeva definitely deserved at least 1 set in that match. And yeah, there was just a point where it was I had never seen her play that well before. And then I saw her do it again against Rybakina and again against Tauson. So there's no doubt in my mind that she's unlocked something. I mean, we've talked about Andreeva, on the show before, about sort of watching his develop and clearly.
You remember, Nick? Sorry, go on, carry on.
Yeah, clearly, the thing that was going to work on the physical development was she didn't hit the ball as hard as she could. That was going to come. We're starting to see that happen. The serve is suddenly becoming a real weapon. She can get the ball really deep with some pace on it, and now that's coming. And now this is making her a very, very strong all-round player.
I remember Madrid 2023, and she had 2 or 3 standout results that week. I say that week, of course, it's a longer than week-long event, but that was the first week that I'm talking about. She beat Leylah Fernandez maybe on the opening day of the tournament.
Fernandez and
Hadad Maia, okay, yeah, back-to-back, exactly. And then I think she lost to Sabalenka maybe in the 3rd round.
Third or fourth round.
Yeah, that's my feeling. She might have won 3 matches. Yeah, someone in the live chat can maybe correct us on that. And what I remember as well, as strongly as that, is you and Vanch doing a show. I think we might have done a WTA Weekly mid-tournament.
Yeah, that's when it was a very early stages, and we would experiment with doing it every week.
And I remember listening, exactly. We sort of do about 45, 46 a year. I think it's just sort of slams and then maybe some of the 1000s now that are stretched out over 2 weeks. But either way, it still worked because it was kind of like, this is the latest from Madrid. And it was you and Vanch. I remember that clearly because I remember listening to it as an audio podcast on my way to the, I think it's called the Magic Box, is it? Or the Magic Arena or something like that. Anyway, in Madrid. And just getting your takes on her and going, okay, this is an incredible sort of breakthrough. I guess she would have been 15, was she then? Or was she just she was turning 16 maybe during the tournament? Or
she was, I think she turned 16. Yeah, I think it was either during the tournament or just before the French.
Yeah, just going to see when her birthday is. Yeah, so I think it was during the tournament because her birthday's end of April. So, yeah, and just getting your takes on her there. And what I kind of like is that she's kind of just had a pretty smooth upward trajectory that this year for me included a title such as this and making the top 10. It's not me going any bigger than that right now, but this is just a nice upward trajectory. And okay, she might only be 17, but it's 2 years on tour, and it's 2 years on tour beginning with such a high. And there haven't been, yes, she was obviously emotional in that semi-final loss to Jasmine Paolini last year at the French Open, but she'd achieved their big style. You know, she's had decent runs. I think she lost to, was it Madison Keys? She lost at Wimbledon maybe in 23 as well in the 4th round, I would say.
And she had opportunity to win that match.
She did, yeah, she did. But she's getting results. And then looking at her results this week, and we've touched on some of them, but some of them are also maybe just as impressive, is the fact that she got to the semi-final playing Avanesian, Vondrousova, Stearns, and Swiatek, all winning those matches in straight sets. In fact, there's a few breadsticks and bagels in there too, as you can see. I mean, yeah, as you said, going into the final, I also did take some stock into that because I found it very difficult to split the two, but I was like, listen, if Mirra Andreeva is beating these players with this sort of ease, dare I say, certainly the first 3 rounds, then she's obviously on it, and she was. And I think the only thing that was going to stop her, maybe either you or someone in the chat I just heard or saw say that maybe nerves might get the better of her, but they didn't in the end. And yeah, she had the energy to overcome Tauson in that second set in particular. The first set did turn out to be huge. I remember, or I heard Fergus and Brenner talking earlier on the live stream that basically they did feel that that first set was going to be crucial for either player, and it turned out that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, it would have been. Because it's, it would have been because I think, if Andreeva had a mountain to climb, it would have given Tauson some, a bit of a boost. Maybe the physicality would have still played a part, but it was Tauson's best chance of winning the match to win the first set. Ghosty, are you insane? Thank you for the $100.
Okay, wow. Thank you very much. When you said Ghosty, are you insane? I didn't see what it was. No. I was going to then go, okay, what's he saying? Mirra Andreeva's going to do the calendar slam next year.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I guess that's kind of the question now. There's now going to be this expectation that Mirra Andreeva is now ready to win a Grand Slam. I don't disagree, but I actually do think she is ready, and I think I am going to be listing as a Grand Slam contender from now on. But I'm not expecting her to win one. Like, I'm not expecting her to win the French. I'm not expecting her to win Wimbledon.
I mean, Wimbledon, not. I mean, we're not talking about like this Wimbledon, but I think she's got the game for all surfaces.
Oh yeah, no, not. I mean, 2025, not ever.
Yeah. I'm not predicting her to win a slam this year, but she's gonna. If one of those slams started tomorrow, she's in your power rankings, right?
Oh, pretty
Whichever
much.
Of those three, yeah.
Like whoever, and I would say also one thing that has impressed me about Andreeva is how good she's been on grass from the start of her career, given so many players need time and experience to adjust to the surface. And she got to the 4th round as a 16-year-old. And I think arguably her game would work pretty well on grass. I don't think she'd be at a disadvantage on it. So, yeah, I definitely think she's got particular potential at Wimbledon.
Yeah, we'll wrap up on Mirra there, but I will just say this, that, yeah, I'm not predict, but if she just, if she makes another semi-final this year for Slam, and if it's, say, the French and she loses to Iga, no shame in that. If she makes a Slam final, again, it would be a phenomenal step forward for her. She'll be desperate to win it if she does make it, but we're already talking in those sort of terms. I think she's now going to be a mainstay in the top 10 for quite some time. We've seen, people such as Fonseca on the men's side making the top 100, similar age, a little bit older, and probably not going to be playing many more challenges. Well, Mirra Andreeva is in the top 10 at a similar age, and I don't think, she's going to be leaving that top 10 that often over the next decade or so, right?
Definitely not. No, I think it would have to injury or loss of form that would result in that. I think she's definitely confirmed herself as a top player for a while. And I think she's got a particular strength that's going to keep her there, which is her ability to just put the ball in the right place at the right time and just judge her choice of shot almost perfectly. I do not think there's anyone else on tour right now with a higher tennis IQ than she has. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I think I probably wouldn't go quite that big, but it certainly came to the fore again today as Tauson was struggling in that second set. I'll get it right this time. And she was just like, I'm going to keep these balls in play. I'm going to keep it with margin, but I am going to be pushing you around because...
Yeah, she was moving Tauson side to side.
She was, yeah. And Tauson was obviously struggling with that. And yeah, I all here for the Mirra Andreeva train and look forward to her being in the upper echelons of most tournaments for the next decade or so. Yeah. All right. Listen, Clara Tauson, I'm going to share this tab now with a bunch of videos that we have on Clara, including an interview with her from last year. But it's actually the video here, Lookout 2025. And I think it was you and maybe Tom talking from a couple of weeks ago, as you in particular were obviously extolling the virtues of Clara and her potential for this year. And it's a huge step forward for her. She, in particular, needs to stay healthy, right?
Yeah, she is one of those players that has had her development hampered by injury, particularly on the back. But yeah, seeing her contend for titles and going deep in tournaments regularly and really taking it to the top players. I mean, that Sabalenka win was hugely impressive. Like the way she clearly learned from their previous clash in Australian Open, locked in. Like I thought she could have won that Australian Open match if she just didn't make so many errors as she did. And she played so much better. And she was doing the same all week. And despite all the challenges, and she was probably struggling a little bit more with the players who were able to get everything back. But yeah, I think health is going to be the main thing for Tauson, as it is for a lot of players. But she does seem vulnerable. Hopefully, she recovers well from what's been a really tough week on her physically. But I think Clara Tauson's been a name that we've been talking about for years as someone who should be in the big time. She was racking up titles in 2021 as a 19-year-old, 250s, that. She beat Emma Raducanu in the final of that challenger before the US Open. The year Raducanu won it, and Tauson was just unfortunately run to Barty in her draw. And then sort of injuries really massively affected it. I think Clara Tauson is now a big name player by being in a 1,000 final. And she's now deservedly up there as someone to watch in pretty much every single draw rather than just hype.
And she's extremely exciting to watch, right?
Oh yeah, huge hitting from them, but wonderfully timed on it as well. She's very, very good at, particularly with that forehand, at just finding the corners with it and keeping her opponents pushed back with it. A nightmare big hitter for the top players to worry about if they ever come across her in a draw.
Yeah, indeed. So fingers crossed, if she can just stay healthy, we're going to see plenty more of Clara throughout 2025 and beyond. Okay, as we often do on this show, as we look back on these tournaments and we hone in on the players, let's go to the beaten semi-finalists. Let's begin with Elena Rybakina, as I just count the number of zeros in my youngest ever to win a 1,000. Good, it looked like I had like one youngest to ever win a 10,000 title for a second in the title of this video.
Yeah, ITF 10K.
Yeah, 10K ITF. Yeah. Okay, Rybakina. So much has been spoken about off court regarding her over the last 12 months or so. But let's hone in on the court stuff because she was threatening to win this title. I did see a tweet saying something like it's once the semi-final lineup was there, and I don't remember who it was, but it was like, okay, this is Rybakina's to lose now. I didn't see it that way at all. I saw it as being a 4-horse race, very much so. Obviously, with Muchova being, I found those two semi-finals, funny enough, both on the men's side in the Middle East this week, and also the women's. All those semi-finals were so close to call. They all turned out exactly that way in the fact that they were tight 3-setters. And yeah, Rybakina, just the wheels came off at 3-1 in that third set.
Yeah, I'd say wheels came off. Andreeva locked in. Andreeva locked in and proved that she was able to get stuff back. And, Rybakina had thrown the kitchen sink at her for a lot of that match and had forced a break advantage. But, it was only the one break in the second set. Andreeva took her opportunities, really kind of kept up with Rybakina in that match. I think Rybakina was looking like someone who was on paper the title favorite. But yeah, like you, I saw that it felt it was a 4-horse race, really. It was so close. It would have been nice for her to kind of put some of the off-court stuff to bed by winning this title.
Yeah, I thought
because hey, look, my tennis is doing the talking. I still think her tennis is doing the talking because she's top 10 in the race pretty solidly. Mm-hmm. She's only losing to all of her losses this year have been good losses. It's 2 to Iga Swiatek and 2 to 3 to the eventual champion. So she's in the mix for titles. It's just a question of when, not if, she's going to win one. It's certainly I've been seeing sort of improvements and signs of progress. She's been hitting really cleanly, really aggressively. I saw that in her quarterfinal that she played. I was really impressed by how she dealt with that match. And then it's similar to Wimbledon, right? We thought she was the other people probably thought it was on paper favorite in that semi-final lineup, and then that didn't happen because Krejcikova played really, really well. And at the end of the day, I think this will be a loss that will age well when we look at the history books and Mirra Andreeva's career of course she lost to Mirra Andreeva. That makes sense. That's a good person to lose to. So, Also, Shauna in the chat saying the Badosa match was crazy. Yeah, that was a real...
How many match point saves? 5, was it?
6.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say 6 was Badosa's unlucky number because Rybakina was the 6th seed and she saved 6 match points. That was a crazy, crazy match. So many dramatic twists and turns in it. Badosa did well to make it a final set tie break, get herself an opportunity to win that match, given she looked like she might fade in the third. Rybakina's definitely got that little bit of grit back after that. I don't think we should be afraid to call Rybakina a legit title contender at the minute. I don't think she's finished by any means. I think she's playing really, really well. It's just so many people on tour are playing really well.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up actually the current rankings, not the live ones, but the current ones, if that makes sense, from last week. Because I like what you say about Rybakina. Is something that I've considered as well, is that she's having some good losses. It's obviously if you're aiming for the absolute top of the game, as Elena is, there's no such thing as a good loss. But when she lost to Madison Keys 4th round, in Australia, thinking, maybe she would like to have gone a round or two further to at least sort of put her up there again. But with Madison Keys going on to win the title in the manner she did, you then reflected on that a week later going, okay, a 3-set loss could have gone either way. Maybe Rybakina's, in the final rather than Madison Keys, and so on and so forth. The losses to Swiatek that you mentioned, the one at the United Cup, I would sort of put down to the fact that she was still coming back on the tour. She did serve for that first set of United Cup before Iga managed to turn things around there. I would say the one that she lost to Iga more recently was probably a little bit more disappointing for Elena. But again, this one as well, it was there for her at 3-1 in that. in that third set, but things got away from her, and good luck for Andreeva, who obviously goes on to win the title. But yeah, but just looking at the top 10 here, I mean, they're all sort of, in fact, you could go way beyond.
Are you actually sharing anything, John?
Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing it. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So yeah, just looking at the top 10 here, I mean, they're all just beating each other, and they're all capable of beating each other. Gauff and Paolini right now are struggling for form. Madison Keys hasn't played since Australia, and she's gone up in the rankings, which sort of shows you exactly how fragile they all are.
Live, she's going to go up to number 5, and she's only going to be a few points behind Jessica Pegula at 4. It would not surprise me to see Madison Keys top 4.
Pegula's up to 4 as well, is she?
Yeah, Pegula's going to be 4 on Monday.
So Pegula is losing matches at the moment, you know, and not going super deep, and yet she's crept up. Madison Keys hasn't played since Australia, and she's gone up. Rybakina, is she still behind Paolini in the rankings? I guess she might.
No, I think she's going to jump ahead. I think she's going to jump above Paolini.
Okay, so that's interesting. So Paolini obviously, because Paolini will be losing all those points from her 1,000 title
last year. Yeah,
I think I had her out of the top 10 come the year end, Paolini, and I think Gil just had her squeezed in at around about number 10. I think we just both thought it's going to be so hard for her to replicate the 1,000 title that she had a year ago, plus those 2 Grand Slam finals, as well as being pretty solid throughout the rest of the year. So, yeah, Gil just had Paolini squeezing in, but they're just all beating each other. Sabalenka and Swiatek have got such a huge lead over the field that it doesn't matter. Coco Gauff, shall we have a quick word on her and her form at the moment? I mean, since that Australian Open semi-final loss, it's been a bit of a rough sort of month for her.
Yeah, but we said that last year as well, this time last year. She just doesn't like playing in the Middle East, I don't think. I'm not pulling any kind of alarm bells with Coco Gauff yet. I think when we get to the US Sunshine Double, she's going to be back and she's going to be firing, and she's going to be ready for it. She's always struggled in Doha. She was playing against Marta Kostyuk, who is a bit of a kryptonite of hers as well. Obviously, Dubai didn't necessarily go the way that she wanted it, but again, this time of year has never been good for her. I would suggest that we see how her Sunshine Double goes before we definitively say that she's not in form. I would definitely have her as a title contender in Indian Wells and Miami.
It was just because I was starting to really, I mean, it's just a few weeks. In fact, it's just 3 weeks of tennis, which is almost nothing in the scheme of things in terms of the way Australia finished with the loss to Badosa and then the couple of weeks since then. But I was really starting to get big on her. I think some people were tipping her to win in Australia. I think most of us had her getting to the semis at least, where she would have met Sabalenka. And I thought I had seen in Coco Gauff enough tennis from the back end of last year to suggest that she was playing the best tennis of her career. So much so that as that John's WTA top 10 shoots across the bottom of the screen, I think I ended up having her in second place come the year end. But yeah, do let us know in the live chat or of course in the comments below if you're watching this retrospectively. And for those listening on the podcast, I'm not sure if you can comment, but maybe you can just nod your head or shake your head as you jog along that wonderful river wherever you are in the world, listening to the dulcet tones of Nick and I talk about the upper echelons of women's tennis right now. Have you got anything else to add on Coco Gauff?
No, I'm just trying to remember who she lost to. McCartney Kessler, I think, was the one who beat her in straights. In the end of the day, Kessler ended up going several rounds with Karolina Muchova. Could have also made a bit of a breakthrough this tournament. That would have been quite dramatic. Kessler, I guess it's like not the kind of player you would expect Coco Gauff to lose to. But yeah, right now, no need to panic. It's a weird point in the season for her. Let's see how she does. And I think there's still plenty of time for her to prove you right, John, because she's got so much really to gain over the course of the year. If you think that a lot of her points that she is defending are going to come from the from Beijing and from the WTA finals, and that's where a big chunk of her ranking is based.
Okay, fingers crossed. How's my sound right now, Nick?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I think it's about the internet. I think that's what it is. I think when the internet goes, it affects the sound. But fingers crossed, it will hold for the rest of the show. Okay, Karolina Muchova, she lost in the semi-finals as well. Thoughts on her, Nick?
Karolina Muchova. I think we'll see Karolina Muchova back in the top 10 in a few weeks, provided she doesn't get injured. I think she's consistently getting herself in the deep ends of these tournaments. She's regularly making semi-finals. I think she played the match of the tournament against Tauson in that semi-final. I do think that was the best match from Dubai. Others might disagree with me and say it was Rybakina Badosa or even Mirra Andreeva. But I think given the quality actually went up as the match went on, given there was just so much good tennis, particularly towards the end of the match from both of them, and there was so many dramatic twists and turns with it in the second set. I have to keep with that. I think Muchova is in a similar position of like she's almost there. She's almost there in getting another trophy added to her cabinet. I still believe she can, and certainly the way 2025 is going. If you look at sort of the stories we've had from it, with Madison Keys finally getting a slam, and Amanda Anisimova finally winning a big title, Clara Tauson finally getting a deep run at a big tournament, beating a top player, and kind of showing her initial credentials there. I think Karolina Muchova, that's kind of a good omen, as it were, if you believe in that sort of thing, for Karolina Muchova to make that breakthrough and get, I'm not even saying a big title, just another title of 500, or if she could get 1,000, I suppose Grand Slam might be a push, but hey, if things fall her way, why not? I think Karolina Muchova is someone that gets a lot of hype. She's showing why week in, week out. She just keeps falling just short. I don't think through any major fault of her own. She just keeps beating people who are slightly better on the day. I'm here, and I'm optimistic for Karolina Muchova adding to her trophy cabinet in 2025, judging by these performances, including the one she's putting this week.
It is quite a bare trophy cabinet, though, for someone of her incredible talents and someone who's threatened so often to win titles, though, right?
It is. Again, injuries have played a massive part in that. We said the same thing about Maria Sakkari at one point. I would say arguably Muchova's got a little bit more hype around her than Sakkari, and has for a little bit longer. She does. It is a little bit bare, but the fact that she always has this much optimism around her suggests that doesn't really matter that much, I would say. And she's certainly getting on all the highlight reels, as it were. She's certainly not title-less either. So
the highlight reels we've got to give a mention to that between the legs. Yeah,
that was incredible, that shot. I shared it on social media, and a friend of mine who doesn't even watch tennis said, "Don't like tennis, but fair play. That was a good shot." So Karolina Muchova is winning over fans the world over, and I think it's one of those, like, she's good enough to do this. I think some of her problems have been due to matchup problems, due to other people having to a little bit more from her than her at the right moment. I think her time will come. I think it will happen. I think it would be very unfortunate if it didn't.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. I've just moved locations, and fingers crossed my sound will hold, as I said earlier, for the rest of the show. Don't hesitate to just interrupt me if my sound is very bad. Okay, that's the semi-finalist tick. As we look back now at the players that got to the quarterfinals, what can we say about Iga Swiatek that hasn't already been said? Well, we did see a sort of exchange between her and Wim Fissette after the loss that she had to Mirra Andreeva. I think there was kind of a bit of a blanking there of Wim as he held his hand out. She left him hanging, if you like. A lot of people will read a lot into that. Are you reading anything into it, or shall we just move on?
I didn't even know that happened.
Okay. Well,
so,
have I painted a picture well enough for you?
Yeah, you painted the picture. I think she was awfully frustrated after a loss. I don't even think she did that with Viktorovski in terms of shaking his hand after a loss. So,
it's backstage, if you like, and I don't know where she's walking to somewhere, and he sort of holds his hand out, and she gives it short shrift. And of course, some people are sort of just
but you say that Daniel Medvedev gives his coach short shrift all the time. He's still there. There's players out there, like, I wouldn't read too much into that right now. I certainly think that Iga's not regressed in any way, shape, or form. The project's ongoing. And again, yeah, she's not having any bad losses this season. She's lost to Coco Gauff, who is one of her main rivals, in and arguably she was somewhat exhausted in that match. She was carrying something in that match, I think. She loses to Madison Keys in a knife-edge semi-final. Keys wins.
Thanks for tuning in.
Elena Ostapenko, who is someone who just has is someone that Iga doesn't like playing, and Ostapenko played an insanely high-quality match that day. And then she loses to the eventual champion Mirra Andreeva in Cincinnati. And again, Andreeva played an amazing match, and she's losing to people who have to play amazing levels to beat her. Again, no reason to hit the panic button.
I'm going to disagree slightly. Not panic button pressing, but I'm going to disagree slightly with some of those things. I think the nature of the loss to Ostapenko, the fact that she's kind of not replicating the form that she had at this part of the year last year, in terms of the fact that she was in the semis last year at this tournament. This year she goes out in the quarters. The previous tournament she won and she went out in the semis, so she's going out around earlier. Yes, she did go further in Australia, and I think that was fine, especially as she played really well at the United Cup. The Coco Gauff results, though, and that dynamic is changing. We'll see if that holds for Coco in the future. But the coaching change was about making progress, and particularly, well, we'll see at the tournaments where she hasn't performed well in the past. For example, I mean, I know she won Miami, but since Miami 2022, we'll see if she can better her results from there. Yeah, I mean, I'm just making a comparison. You mentioned the Daniel Medvedev thing as well. Yes, that's true, but Medvedev has stuck with the same coach for as long as I can remember. Whereas, Iga's on her third coach, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years. And so, she's obviously made that change, and a bold change it was, and maybe the right change to get better, especially at tournaments where she hasn't done so well before. So that'll obviously be, the US Open. I know she won that in 2022, but looking back at the last 2 or 3 years where she's losing to similar sort of styles of players, flat hitters such as Ostapenko and Pegula, and seeing if she can change that dynamic. And I haven't seen anything yet that suggests that has changed. Now, I'm not pressing the panic button, as you said, but I'm certainly paying closer attention to it than ever before.
I think we're just fishing here, John, to be honest. I think we're just fishing for something to talk about. I think I can see sort of with Iga's game that there have been some slight improvements. That forehand is not as overhit as it was. That she's a lot more happier putting top spin on it. Backhand really doesn't need much fixing, to be honest. It's still pretty good. The way she's playing at the minute, she's a lot more comfortable on these faster surfaces. It's pretty obvious that she's not getting pushed back in the same way. Literally, Ostapenko is the only loss where it's kind of regressed to a mean. I think her volleys are a lot more comfortable, a lot less robotic. The serve is, I do think the serve is still a work in progress. It does feel like it's lost a little bit of pace. But overall, I think this version of Iga would have had the similar result. Last year's Iga would have had similar results this year. I don't think that there's anything to really suggest she's gone backwards. Has she gone forwards? I mean, there's not much forward she can get. Yeah, I think there's no. I don't think that there's a problem. I think she's losing to people who are having really, really good days, and that was always.
Okay, final question on this, and this will be for you, Nick, and I'll let you take the stage here. Do you think she'll be happy with her 2020 or her last 4 months, let's say, so including the WTA finals and then this season so far?
Well, WTA finals was a mess because she just had come off from her substance ban. So she was going in super rusty. And the others, I think she would be happy with it. Iga Swiatek would want to won every single tournament that she's played.
Yeah.
Do I think that So of course she's not happy. I don't think Arina Sabalenka's happy with the season she's had so far. Either. That's the kind of their mindset with it. But yeah, the fact that, but if you look at sort of the nature of the losses and everything else like that, like it's still pretty deep in tournaments. If she was losing in like last 16s regularly, we would be having a problem. And I think she'd be really, really upset. But I think is she going to be happy? No, but I don't think that it would be for the reason that she's underperforming.
During my unbroken monologue there, Nick, did I sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
There's going to be a lot of sound checks for people listening back to this.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's just that I just had a spotty moment, and fingers crossed it holds. Okay, other beaten quarterfinalists include Noskova, Chastea, and Sofia Kenin. Would you like to elaborate on either of those three players?
Kenin was the one I was trying to remember that Rybakina beat, and I thought looked pretty good against. Kenin also looked pretty good in that match. I was very happy to see her make a deep run this tournament and kind of put herself back in the mix, as it were. Grand Slam champion. It's nice to see her make some deep runs in big tournaments. I want to talk about Linda Noskova because Linda Noskova has actually had a really, really good Middle East swing. Close match with Iga Swiatek in Doha, quarterfinals here in Dubai, which was ended up being decided by a really, really close first set with Tauson, who they're both very similar players. Noskova is 20. She's in the let's see what she does with her career kind of stage of there's clearly a big upside to her game. Still a little bit of fragility that needs to be ironed out, but overall, I think she's got herself back into sort of the seedings brackets for Indian Wells, Miami, maybe even the Slams. And I think that in terms of her confidence and consistency, these 2 weeks have been a really, really positive step forward for her. And I'm looking forward to seeing what else she can do in the tournaments coming up.
Cool. All right. Any final reflections before we look forward to the next 7 days in women's tennis?
I really, really enjoyed Dubai, this tournament. Like, so many good three-setters. I think this has been one of those WTA tournaments where you've had almost several great matches in a day or several consecutive days of great matches. The semi-finals were both brilliant. The first set of the final was really, really good. Even as Tauson was fading, she was still putting up a hell of a fight in the second. I have enjoyed this. I have enjoyed this event a lot as a fan, and it's been really, really nice to see. So I just want to throw that point out there before I kind of throw out to you, John, a question I think has been doing the rounds on my social media.
Sure.
And I've waded into this earlier as well. And it's one of my big bugbears that this ends up being a question so often.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a problem that the biggest names on the WTA haven't won the biggest titles yet in terms of the quality for the overall tour?
No. You could have a world number one with 6,000 or 7,000 points, and people would go, "Oh, that's it's a dreadful low amount of points." I'd be delighted. I would love to see the world number. I don't know how the maths work on this, but I would love to see the world number 25 have 1,000 points and the world number one to have 6,000 points, and everyone to all be bunched up. Listen, hats off to Jannik Sinner and the way he's dominating the men's tour in so many ways, especially on hard courts. But I would love to see more winners. And that doesn't necessarily mean that Sabalenka or Swiatek or whoever's at the top of the game are any worse. It just means that we're going into tournaments with 20 unbelievable tennis players and 20 potential winners, particularly on hard courts anyway. I mean, obviously clay and grass, different kettle of fish. But no, doesn't mean anything. I know, for example, Miles David is often talking about women's tennis from 10 years ago and highlighting the top three at that stage: Serena, Sharapova, and
Azarenka.
Azarenka, right, for example, as recently. I know he's had other conversations where he threw in Radvanska, for example, into that conversation, but I don't quite get that. And my point of view is, if you're as big a Serena fan as I know Miles is, surely you should just be going, listen, she's a 23-time Grand Slam winner. That is, probably the greatest of all time, if not definitely the greatest of all time, somewhere in that region. And we'll let that debate rest for another day. You should just be going, you know what? She's the greatest of all time. Let's forget that, and then let's have a look at everyone else. Okay, where does Sharapova sort of rate, and Radvanska rate, and Azarenka rate compared to Sabalenka, Swiatek? Well, they're all just amazing players. They're all going to win 5+ Grand Slams. They're all going to be legends of this sport. And just go, well, thank God it's as competitive as it is. I would rather have that. I don't want to see a sport where the 3 best players in the world are afforded unbelievable privileges and they can just pick and choose the tournaments that they play in because they're so good and blah, blah, blah. I want them all to be fighting and scrapping. I want them all to be winning a 1,000 one week and then going out in the first round of the next. Bring on the chaos. It's like I've said about Grand Slams before. There is one way of looking at it, and we want the sort of 4 unbelievable standout players in the world into the semifinals. That's one thing, and I bring that on too. But I don't want to see one player in that semifinal or quarterfinal, because then it's like, oh, okay, we've got Iga in the quarterfinals at the French, and then 7 players, let's say, that are not really in the realistic chance of winning it. I would rather have no Iga in that final 8, if you like, or let's have Iga, Arena, Coco, and all the other big names. But I don't really understand it. Maybe it's just people just saying that because their favorites aren't there and they're losing interest in the tournaments as a result. Other than that, yeah, that's it. I don't know if you've got anything else to add.
What Dave's just said in the chat, I think, is where I'm at. So Dave's put this: I like more possible winners in the draw. It makes the early matches much more interesting. I like having lots of players who are really, really good on their day, because you know that there's going to be a good match at some point during that day, or very likely to. And if it's not, it's usually because of some kind of physical problem or someone didn't show up that day. I think it does make, I think a variety of stories is more interesting. I like seeing different people succeed. I like I like the journeyman stories a lot more than the domination. The domination is only interesting in retrospect. It's only interesting when you're trying to look at historical legacy. In the moment, it's only if you're a fan of that player that if you like that.
And I get that if you're a fan of the player, but if you're not, who wants to see a bunch of beatdowns?
Yeah, do I think, it's people hoping you're going to get a Federer and Nadal 2008 Wimbledon final every week. That means you're going to get the top two in the world clashing all the time. There's an element of that. But hey, if you've got 50 players in the world who could on their day provide an insane level, then you're going to have an epic. I mean, look at the 2 semi-finals at the Australian Open that Madison Keys played. She played world #1 level tennis to beat Swiatek and Sabalenka in 2 very epic matches in different ways. So yeah, let's enjoy the fact that we get loads of different champions. Nick,
we still get those. We still get the Sabalenka Swiatek classics in Madrid. Of course, you and I are probably also underneath secretly hoping for a slam final between those two, and it's gonna happen. So don't worry about it, guys. It's happening at some point. I cannot believe that it won't happen in any way, shape, or form. It might not happen at Wimbledon, but it'll happen at one of the other 3, and we'll look forward to that. So we're getting everything. We're getting the madness. We're getting Anna Samova winning 1,000, and then we're looking at her draw 48 hours later in her next match, going, she could lose, and she does lose. We're looking at Swiatek's draw nowadays, and most of the time we're going, oh, that's a tricky draw. Well, let's see if she gets Ostapenko in the semis, and she did finally get Ostapenko in the semis. We're looking at Sabalenka going, oh, I don't know. I don't know if she's going to be doing it. She doesn't normally do well in the Middle East, and she goes out early in both tournaments. And we get stories such as Andreeva and Tauson this week, or a year ago we had the Paolini story. And by the way, so we're getting the best. We're still getting those classic matches involving Rybakina and Sabalenka in Madrid, for example, or Sabalenka and Swiatek in Madrid the last 2 years in a row. But we're also getting the chaos And we're getting wonderful Grand Slam finals like we did with Paulini and Krejcikova, or the semi-final with Paulini and Vekic, or the absolutely unbelievable run that we just saw from Madison Keys, where basically every match that she was involved in was a popcorn match and you just couldn't leave your seat for a second because it was just drama and quality as well.
Yeah. Tauson, I will go back to this. I don't think anyone's picked up on the hype of this match yet. I'm going to have to find out. But Tauson Muchova yesterday, I loved that match. I don't think we're going to get many better matches than it. It's probably going to be one of the top 20 of the year, if not top 10. So, yeah, I think, and those are two players who are both ranked outside the top 10. So you're going to get a great match. I love it.
Variety as well, Nick. I mean, you know, when you're watching Jabeur against Sabalenka, or I'm trying to think who Jabeur's played recently, you know, the contrasting styles. But
Rybakina.
Yeah, so there you go. Jabeur, Rybakina, great contrast of styles there. You know, you've got Andreeva against Rybakina recently. We've had Swiatek and Ostapenko. You know, Sabalenka. Who did she go out to in Australia? She lost the final, of course, against Madison Keys. You know, we're just seeing so many fantastic matches in the last 18 months. Listen, you and I know this well, especially myself anyway, but you too. When we come to that year end, you know, trying to choose those matches, I can tell you now, last year was a lot more difficult on the women's side to sift out. And we were looking at 15 matches going, I don't know, this one should be there. This one should be there. I'm telling you now, on the men's side, it was difficult, but for very different reasons last year. It was difficult just because there was a dearth of unbelievable matches, especially deep in those. I mean, when was the last time we had a fantastic men's slam final? I'm trying to think now. Okay, yeah, French Open last year was a really good final between Alcaraz and Zverev, but that was probably the only one last year. Australia, yeah, it was 5 sets, but it was a tough watch because Medvedev was just fading, and the minute he lost that third set in Australia a year ago, that was going one way.
Really, the last all-time amazing slam final was probably Nadal Medvedev 22, AO 22.
Right. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago, more than 3 years ago. Okay. That was a great question. Thanks for that, Nick. And I think we can move on and let's look forward. Actually, I do want one more thing to reflect on, which is something we spoke about just before we began. I am not a fan of 10 1,000s in a year, and I'm not a fan of 4 1,000s in the space of, I guess, about 8 weeks or so. But I think you disagree with me, Nick, right?
I do, yes, because I don't feel it in the same way. Like, my only issue with it is impact on player health, potentially. And is this going to be, is it going to be detrimental? Is it going to cause more injuries? Is it going to shorten careers? I want to see what the science says. I want to see how it kind of works out on it. I am in favor of less tennis only if it ruins careers. If what we've got ruins more careers, I think the current setup, it needs. I like the fact that I've got a big tournament to look forward to, and there's an element of the Formula One fan in me coming out, because in Formula One you have 24 events in a year, which arguably for Formula One is too much, to be honest. But that's another thing for another day because it affects more people. But like you've got every race where all the top drivers in the world are competing, and then competing in different locations. And I've always wanted tennis to be more like that. So do I think I would like to find a balance for whatever is best for player health, but I want to push that to the maximum as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, I've made almost in my question in itself, you could probably guess where I stand, but less is more for me. But we'll come back to that, no doubt, many times in the future, but we're almost at the hour mark, and I want to look forward to a couple of events on the women's tour this week. As we've gone from 1,000s, we're having a sort of a step down to the 250s in Austin and in Merida in Mexico.
Merida's a 500.
250 and a 500. Yes, I'm seeing that on the screen right now. Yeah, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on these two tournaments. I'm guessing most of the big players. I'm going to have a look at the draws now. But
so I've got it in front of me. So Merida is probably the one where you want to see the big players. So Emma Navarro and Paula Badosa are playing in Merida. You've got Haddad Maia, Kalinskaya, Vekic, Kostyuk, Sakari, Sloane Stevens, Renata Zarazua is going to have a go at it. Arguably, though, the story of the week might end up happening in Austin.
Okay.
Because, well, first of all, you've got Pegula and Schneider as the top 2 seeds by like miles. Because they're the only top 40 players who are taking part. But Austin is also going to see the return of Petra Kvitova to the tour.
Okay.
Kvitova is back from maternity leave, and it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of level she's going to bring. She is 34 or 33, 34. I don't know what her birthday is, but I know she was born in 1990. So she is nearing kind of the tail end of her career, and I'm interested to see sort of how fairly fresh she is coming back. She's the same age as Wozniacki. Wozniacki's comeback has gone relatively well. Kvitova obviously a bit more firepower to her compared to Wozniacki, but I am interested to see how rusty she is, how confident she is, and how much longer she can extend her career for. And she's got a lot of fans, Kvitova, even though it's been 11 years since she last won Wimbledon. I think that's all eyes are going to be on her return in Austin, and I guess that's kind of got to be the most important thing we kind of preview, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm guessing, is this the qualifying list? Or
That's the qualifying list.
Yeah, it's the qualifying list. Okay, cool. But yeah, Kvitova there. Okay, you see Heather Watson there in qualifying. Yeah, so Kvitova's return is certainly the sort of story of the week there. And in Merida, I think you said we've got Badosa probably, as one of the big heavyweights there.
Badosa, Navarro, yeah.
Yeah, Navarro. She's always playing tennis somewhere, it seems to me. But all right, cool. Have you got any final words on either of those two tournaments? Obviously, we're still waiting for the draws to take place, so we can't talk about those because we've got qualifying first rounds, I think, happening right now.
I think Merida is going to give us hopefully some decent tennis. It's going to be interesting sort of how deep how much depth there is in that tournament. But I think you're going to see sort of regular kind of interesting clashes there. That's probably the only thing I'm going to say about Merida. And then Austin, I've kind of said all I want to say about that. Austin for me is going to be all about what Petra Kvitova does.
Yeah. And then it'll be full speed ahead for Indian Wells, I guess.
Yeah. Bring it.
Another one. Another 1,000. No, but listen, I'll be fine by then. I'm ready for it. Maybe I've got that sort of slightly post-Aussie blues. There was a very interesting comment in the chat a few days ago about restructuring the calendar. And I think all of us amongst the Talking Tennis team, and we number about 40, certainly in the WhatsApp group anyway, we're about 40. But we all probably have slightly different takes on how we would like to see the calendar. But I did see an interesting thing recently, which was beginning with an Asian swing in January and having, I think, the Australian Open in February. And I hadn't thought about that before, but I quite like it. I
think it makes sense. I think
I do.
That gives you a sort of build up to the Australian Open.
Yeah, because that post US Open Asian swing that's sort of squeezed in before the European indoor season. Yeah, it just feels a bit, and I think if it was there and maybe we had a 1,000, I'm almost going to I'm going to almost go to a coffee shop now and get a pen and paper. And I would love to I want to keep the golden swing as clay, but maybe put it back a couple of weeks and bring it into the clay court, make it the beginning of the clay court season. I know we've got Indian Wells and Miami, but I'll figure all this out. I'm not going to add 54 weeks into the year or anything like that to make it all happen, but I'm going to make this happen. And by the way, here's Swarner talking about, this is kind of, by the way, just talking about what we were saying before with that 24. I mean, you yourself said that 24 is too many. I remember Formula One being 16 or 17. I think it was pretty much 16 throughout the 90s and maybe the 80s as well, and the 2000s too, early 2000s. And there might have been a couple of exceptions where, for one reason or another, they added a 17th race. I remember they had a European Grand Prix in the Nürburgring so that they could have a couple of races in Germany, particularly at the top of Schumacher's sort of reign. But less is more. Less is more. And I think 16, 17 is enough for Formula One. And I think 8 is enough for...
I think I would like to see a big event a month. So not back to back. 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that would be like one in January, one in Feb, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October.
I would like to do this sort of show with obviously not 40 people talking tennis on the stream, but I would love it if we could have 6, 7, 8 of us all joining a stream someday.
That's
and
good.
just saying, this is our calendar. We won't have to, because there'll be so many of us on the stream, we won't be able to talk about it too much, but we just each sort of put our calendars up and disagree and agree with those calendars, but maybe giving each other the floor for 5 minutes to explain why, and then keeping the pace up, because I think it's there. But we'll do that some other time. All right, Nick, any final WTA thoughts before we wrap things up?
Oh, I'm done. I'm going to go and sort of eagerly await the draws in Merida and Austin coming out.
Yeah, indeed. We'll be obviously reflecting on those a week from now. So, yeah, do give Nick, of course, a follow on social media. I'm going to try and remember your at Nick_B Carter.
Spot on.
There you go. I've tagged you a few times. I'm sure I've tagged you at least once, the incorrect Nick Carter. And I'm sure I've tagged wrong people. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you've seen, we've got a new member of the team with his tag as well. So make sure you give Brenner a follow on social media. He's been a wonderful addition this week. And I'm sure we'll be having him on again next week. And who knows, you may even get to share the floor with him on a WTA Weekly sometime soon as well. Nick, big thanks for joining me on John sort of hosting it WTA Weekly this week, and maybe I'll be back again sometime later on in the year to host as well. But wonderful to share your thoughts and even have 1 or 2 slight disagreements as well, Nick. But on this wonderful space, it's quite easy much easier than those 100 and so characters on Twitter to have slightly nuanced disagreements on.
Yeah, exactly. Much easier and much more friendly. He says, wondering what on earth notifications he's got on his latest post.
I actually have my Twitter notifications turned off. It's unbelievable that I think both Damien and Mario have their notifications on. And I said to Mario in Berlin last year, your phone must be just buzzing all the time, just constantly, because he has it like the notifications on. And
oh yeah, I turn notifications off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I check them. Of course I do. So for those of you that have either in the past or will in the future be abusing me on Twitter, it's okay. I do see them. I don't respond almost never. I once had an argument on Twitter about Ashley Cole 10 years ago. But that's about it, really.
We haven't changed in 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that will disagree with me, and that's fine. But yeah. All right, cool. I've been rambling on for an extra 5 minutes about stuff that isn't necessarily exactly tennis related. So we're going to wrap things up. Nick, once again, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, John. See you all next week.
And for everyone else, you know the drill.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.